And breaking news coming in, a federal judge in America has ordered that US President Donald Trump must restore White House access to CNN reporter Jim Acosta.
That's true.
Jim Acosta is the chief White House correspondent for CNN. He got into a testy exchange with President Trump in a regular briefing a day after the midterm elections, after which the White House denied him access. The network argued that this violated Acosta's constitutional rights and the channels as well. Joining us is WION's correspondent Nick Harper. This is another setback for President Donald Trump in his battle against the press.
Well, it certainly is. Yeah, it's a big win for CNN, a big blow for Donald Trump and his top aides. They were essentially trying to curtail CNN's coverage. It is well known that Donald Trump is not a fan of CNN. It is one of his main targets at rallies. He often refers to fake news, speaking directly about CNN, and there's no love lost between the president and this correspondent Jim Acosta at CNN. They have had run-ins in the past. So taking away the hard pass was something that CNN's lawyers was breaking two different amendment rights. First and Fifth Amendment. First Amendment is all to do with freedom of the press and freedom of speech. The Fifth Amendment was an argument that the White House was taking away his hard pass without doing the due process, essentially taking it away in an illegal fashion very quickly, as opposed to putting through the paperwork and informing him that he would have his pass taken away if there were to be other incidents. So it's a big win for CNN, but bear in mind that this is just the beginning. The judge has made this temporary ruling that Jim Acosta can get back his hard pass immediately. He'll be able to use it today, but there will be further hearings to come, and the judge will have to weigh up whether or not the First and Fifth Amendment rights have been violated, and that will have much larger implications, not just for CNN, but for press freedoms and exactly how much power the White House has over them.
Any first reactions from Jim Acosta or the White House?
Yeah, Jim Acosta spoke outside court a couple of moments after that ruling came down. He said that he was very pleased with the ruling. He made a very brief statement and he said, now let's get back to work. But we also heard from CNN's lawyers as well, who'd argued that this was a capricious and arbitrary act from the White House. They said that it was a great day for the First Amendment and for journalism. We haven't heard from the White House yet. There hasn't been any tweets from President Trump. It's unclear if there will be any sort of press briefing at the White House later on today, but at some point the White House will need to respond to this, and as we go further forward with the other hearings, they'll need to make remarks about what they feel is the purview of their limitations on the press and exactly what sort of barriers they can put between the White House and the press corps themselves.
The president usually speaks through his tweets. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's not said anything on Twitter about this fight with Jim Acosta, especially after the case was filed, has he?
That's right, yeah, he's all about the tweets. It's something he does very early in the morning through till very late at night. And CNN and Jim Acosta in the past have been part of his tweets, but there's been no mention or at least no response from him or the White House's official channels on this. Because this has been working its way through the courts, his lawyers have cautioned him about mentioning this or saying anything that could potentially disrupt the case. But President Trump is known to jump onto Twitter when there is something that is bothering him or is angering him, so we could see a tweet or two within the coming hours.
Just a quick recap before I let you go. For our viewers who are not from America, what this court ruling basically says is that for the moment, until further notice, Jim Acosta will have access to the White House. Is that correct?
That's right, yes. So he will immediately get back his hard pass today. A hard pass allows him to have access to the White House, to the press areas of the White House, to the press briefing room, allows him to have access to statements that are given by the press secretary, Sarah Sanders. He will get that back immediately. However, there is the possibility, although it seems slim at this stage, considering the judge's ruling so far, that they may be able to revoke that press pass at some other point in the future, and that will will all come down to what the judge says in these future hearings, and we're likely to have those in the coming weeks, when the judge will have to tackle the First and Fifth Amendment rights that CNN claim were violated. The judge will have to make rulings directly on those. He hasn't done that today, but he has sided with CNN, saying that the hard pass, that being taken away, was unconstitutional, it was illegal, and it must be returned to Jim Acosta immediately. So there is more to be worked out, but at least at this stage, the judge siding very firmly with CNN, and therefore suggesting that the other rulings that are to come in the future weeks, we will also see the judge potentially siding with CNN as well.
Nick Harper, thanks very much for bringing us that update. So CNN has won this round, and the White House will have to restore access to Jim Acosta with immediate effect. Let's play out for you very quickly that exchange that led to this fight, which has now landed up in court.
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonized immigrants in this election to try to keep...
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign...
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
They're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better. That's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have...
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian
investigation
because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic. I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his butt.
Well, I'm not
like
a big fan of yours either. So
I understand.